All right, man, peace. Brothers, when this whole China versus NBA storyline first started to emerge, it was very conspicuous the way in which LeBron James was rendered silent, but I didn't find it to be anything that was worthy of note because I already knew what the situation was. LeBron James is a dutiful servant to all of his corporate interests, that being Nike, the NBA, and China. He knows what his place is, as he should, because they have far more secrets that they can reveal about him than he could reveal about them. That's the bottom line to this whole situation. The only thing that I see that was of value in the revealing of LeBron James is that hopefully at last he will return to what his role is supposed to be, that being an entertainer. Stop trying to act as if you have great skill in speaking about various issues and topics because you don't. His attempts in trying to chime in on the political narrative that currently pervade American society, to me, they just flopped because he does not have the ability to articulate whatever thoughts are in his head on things other than basketball or the business world in which he's been immersed. And when he tries to, it just results in folly. So hopefully, once again, the way in which this whole Chinese back and forth has blown up in both his face and the NBA's face, that will encourage them to utilize more temperance in the future. But I doubt it. I do believe that eventually LeBron James will emerge from underneath the rock that he's been forced to bury himself under. And he'll start to speak about issues once again because he has to continue to develop the cult of personality on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter that he lusts for because he is an attention whore. He's an attention monger. Meanwhile, notice, no one has even thought about asking Kawhi Leonard about the quote-unquote China situation because his brand is basketball. He understands his limitations. LeBron James does not understand his limitations. And when you don't understand where your limits are, you're going to flub. You're going to fall. You're going to get revealed. So from now on, whenever any of LeBron James fanboys try to claim that Michael Jordan did not contribute to the quote-unquote community, he didn't give back, and he stated Republicans buy sneakers too, everyone's going to be able to respond, well, LeBron James understands that the Chinese buy sneakers too. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
All right, what we're witnessing as it relates to LeBron James and the China controversy is a failure of the mainstream media to function properly and ethically.
I'm not quite sure if the expectations on the mainstream media are to be ethical anymore, if they ever were. When I watch mainstream media newscasts, it's just so that I can use it as a backdrop for my own perspective. That's it. Like, I don't take any of these people seriously at all.
James, the hype man for Taco Tuesday.
This is really what he should be doing right here. Making goofy faces, talking about Taco Tuesday. If anyone is on LeBron James's Instagram, I have no idea how you could ever consider him as someone that you could take seriously in a serious conversation. It's very clear that he's lacking some brain cells upstairs. There's nothing against the brother. But if you see him on Instagram, you'd be like, damn, did he play in the NFL? Does he have CTE? Like, something's wrong with this dude.
Now it looks like General Tso's chicken. In pursuit of a legacy that would surpass Michael Jordan, LeBron James cast himself as the second iteration of the great.
And he's forcing these poor white people to say Taco Tuesday. They probably like, Taco Tuesday, nigger. LeBron, like, what was that? What'd you say, Dan? I said, oh, nothing. Taco Tuesday, nigger.
Muhammad Ali, Daryl Morey, Chinese government, and protesters in Hong Kong have exposed the folly of James's quest and the enormity of his capitalistic greed. LeBron James wants to be Bill Gates far more than he wants to be Muhammad Ali.
Absolutely.
James's freedom-fighting days are in the rearview mirror. Hong Kong protesters and freedom fighters are burning his jersey in the streets. And here at home, James's media sycophants have fallen silent or are distancing themselves from their king.
Yes, that's hilarious. I'm going to be doing a video on Shannon Sharp speaking about this whole situation. It truly is hilarious. Both he and Max Kellerman have been forced to state that it's very clear that LeBron has been revealed as a phony. It's just so hilarious to me, especially with Shannon Sharp. These guys are so slow on the uptake, but that's because they're fans. Once again, brothers, never be a fan. It slows down your ability to assimilate information. It's very difficult for you to understand the data that's being fed into your mind when it's clouded by being a fanboy. Shannon still doesn't get it. He's like, Skip, I just don't understand why he will stay there. It's because he's never been real when it comes to social situations unless it suits him. Oh, LeBron, he created a school for kids to go to in Ohio. No, he didn't. That's a public school. The community in Akron is paying for that school. He contributed $2 million from his foundation. It didn't even come out of his pocket. His only job was to make an appearance there, hold a microphone, and dress up like LeBron X. That was his only job. And he sat down and made a fucking fool of himself, trying to act like he was deep or insightful.
LeBron said yesterday that he won't be talking about China anymore.
I plan on being here, being the captain of this team, and trying to figure out a way how we can win a championship.
Ain't that something? Didn't Laura Ingraham tell you to do just that last year? Didn't she tell your dumb ass to shut up and dribble? Every time you look at this dude, he got more gray hairs in his beard. Maybe it's all the stress getting to him. Who knows?
That's my main goal right now.
Wow, ain't that something? I thought your main goal was that you're more than an athlete. Isn't that what you said? You're more than an athlete, right? Now you just want to focus on basketball. Ain't that a bitch?
I feel like I talked about it yesterday. I tweeted out a couple of responses to people not understanding, my knowledge of where it came from my brain and for me.
Your knowledge and where it came from your brain. You mean Daryl Morey fucking up your money and you being scared over in China, because that's also what the issue was. You were scared to death over there. You didn't know if Chinese special forces was going to kick down your hotel door, take you to some cave, and drip a drop of water right on top of that ball spawn in the crown of your head every 5 seconds, make you lose your mind. That's what you was worried about. LeBron was shook as hell. When all those comments came out, he's like, damn, is the Chinese military going to come get us? That's what he was so scared about, talking about, Daryl Morey, he could affect us physically, spiritually, mentally. Yeah, because you were shook. That revolutionary life, that's not that's not something that people really comprehend before they embark on it. That's why I call out people internet revolutionaries. If you don't really understand the qualifications and also the possible repercussions of your words, then don't start speaking about issues that you're not willing to go all out for. That's the bottom line to that.
From the situation, I'm talking about it now, and I probably won't talk about it again because I'll be cheating my teammates if I continue to harp on something that won't benefit us. Trying to win a championship, because that's what we're here for.
In other words, you're going to shut up and dribble. Good job.
All right, I don't blame LeBron James for tapping out, and I actually have sympathy for him. We, the mainstream media, set him up for this colossal failure.
Yeah, you partially did. Because you guys keep telling black athletes that they're supposed to be leaders, and you keep trying to cast them in these roles of archetypal black athletes from the 50s and 60s when they're not really built for this. None of these guys are built to be Muhammad Ali. Like Muhammad Ali told the boxing world, keep your money. I'm going to do me. I'm good. We know that he wasn't good and that they almost succeeded in starving him out. But at the end of the day, he rejected the paychecks and the fame that came with being a boxing superstar. LeBron James never in his life would be willing to do something like that. Ever. And the only reason, once again, why he embarked on the woke path is because he knew that he was going to get the sponsorship and be subsidized by Nike.
Led him down this path. 5 years ago, when I worked at the alleged worldwide leader, I proposed a journalism project that would examine LeBron's pursuit of Muhammad Ali. I wanted a team of black journalists to explore the possibility of LeBron mimicking Ali. Had the project been executed, we would have explained to the public and James that in the 21st century, it's impossible for any athlete to duplicate what Ali did in the 1960s and 70s. America's changed, and so have the business and culture of sports. Ali answered to black religious leaders Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X.
As a matter of fact, one of Muhammad Ali's most infamous interviews, while he was in the midst of being castigated and scrutinized and attacked by the sports media of that time period, and he was dressed in Nation of Islam regalia, he stated that he was ready to die for his beliefs, even if it meant facing machine gun fire that day. He said, "I will face it before denouncing Elijah Muhammad and the religion of Islam. I'm ready to die." That's what he stated. LeBron James would never in his life state that.
LeBron answers to Phil Knight and Adam Silver, and they answer to a global economic force in Asia that is run by a communist regime. You can't understand the game-changing impact of that fundamental difference. You're as naive as a 10-year-old child. Ali, Arthur Ashe, Jim Brown, Jackie Robinson, John Carlos, Tommy Smith, and the black athletes of yesteryear experienced firsthand the indignity and humiliation of second-class citizenry. They don't have to pretend that spray paint on a garage door they never saw
because it never existed. Somebody please show me the footage of the word nigger being spray painted on the garage door of LeBron James's old home in Brentwood, LA. I'm still waiting on that. Damn, 2 years later. That's why I state, people's talking about how LeBron James is getting revealed with this storyline. This is only the tip of the iceberg. You guys have no idea. This dude is being used as an agent of chaos by many corporate forces. And the only reason why he speaks out so virulently against Donald Trump is because Nike told him to do so. That's why he stood on stage with Hillary Clinton a few years ago. That's the only reason why he did it, because Nike told him to do it, because they understood that their bottom line was going to be affected. And like I stated from 2 years ago, I believe that the stunt of LeBron James having the word nigger sprayed outside of his gate, that was done at a certain time. If you remember, that was right before the NBA Finals. That was during the time period where they were trying to build up his image as this quote-unquote Malcolm X style basketball player. He was the new Muhammad Ali. After Ali passed away in 2016, it activated a lot of these quasi-revolutionary fake woke dudes in the sports world. Colin Kaepernick being one, LeBron James being another, and it was sprinkled all throughout the different major sports in America. But there's no doubt in my mind that that was a complete hoax. And he should be embarrassed for engaging in that. If I'm wrong about that, I'm wrong, but I seriously doubt it. There's no way in the world that I believe that that actually happened.
Related to the pain of Emmett Till's mother. Only a pampered elite removed from the ravages of discrimination would make that analogy. LeBron is a multi-million-dollar brand, not a slam-dunking Nelson Mandela knockoff. He was born with athletic gifts that in America cripple intellectual evolution until the athletic gifts diminish. Let me clarify. The smart play for an American kid as physically blessed as LeBron is to max out athletically before maxing out intellectually. All of this should have been and should be explained by the mainstream media. It's our job to inform the public so the public can have an informed opinion and realistic expectations.
Well, here's the real issue with your statement, Whitlock. I'm not going to completely blame the American media because it's you guys' job to create storylines. In order to create storylines, you have to have characters. And if you don't have characters, you have to create them. That's why for a long period of time, the mainstream media, i.e. the liberal media, was trying to encourage athletes to be more like Muhammad Ali. Why is that? Was it because they were trying to encourage them to be agents for change? Or was it just because they needed more sensationalism that they could concoct? And the only way to do that is to have athletes speaking about topics that they're not experts in, so that you can have storylines going into the summertime and controversy, so on and so forth. So if you want to say that LeBron James is a victim, I'd say that he's a willing victim. Yes, the media did not tell LeBron that there were going to be ramifications for him deciding that he was going to be quote-unquote woke. But it wasn't just the media that did this. The corporation that he works for, Nike, they were heavily involved in this and still are. It's just that the China thing has been this huge nuclear bomb because China presides over Nike. This is the first time that there has been a country that had real authority over Nike. See, China's the type, they'll call out Nike. America will never do that because America has a whore mindset. So it's very difficult for one whore to call out another whore.
Our opinion and expectations for LeBron are not realistic, and neither are LeBron's. We have baited him into believing he can be the next Muhammad Ali. There will never be another Muhammad Ali, and we, the media, should inform athletes of this reality. If Ali were in his prime today, he'd be more like Mike Tyson and Cassius Clay.
I agree. But if Muhammad Ali was coming up today, he most likely would not even be a boxer. He'd probably be a point guard in the NBA.
The money in sports changed professional athletes. They're individual businesses, not role models. I feel sorry for LeBron. He's been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray. His image has been...
I'm not going to absolve LeBron James like you're doing right now, brother. I think that Whitlock feels sorry for LeBron because he sees that the entire media is turning against LeBron James, and the portion of the media that predominantly has acted like they were with him, especially that being the liberal contingent, they get very frustrated. And I've said this in the past to you, brothers. The liberal contingent, they'll be the first people to call the so-called black man a nigger if he's not willing to do what they tell him to do. And they're on the verge of doing that with LeBron James.
Damage. The China controversy should expose Phil Knight and Adam Silver more than LeBron James.
But it won't, because they hide behind the curtain.
Knight and Silver are the real General Tso's chickens. All right, joining the desk now are Fox NBA analyst Jim Jackson and Yahoo Sports senior NBA insider Chris Haynes. Marcellus, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
Has LeBron James damaged his reputation through this China controversy?
Absolutely. I mean, that's not even a question of whether or not LeBron James has damaged his reputation, but he was forced to. Whenever you place someone in the position where they actually have to answer real questions in a real way, and there's no right answer for them, as there was no right answer for LeBron, he was going to be done. If he were to go out and say, I agree with Daryl Morey's statements, that's going to cripple his bottom line even more, because that's going to hurt his true boss, that being Nike. And LeBron would die before he hurts Nike. If he were to come out and do what he did, which is state that people are uninformed and uneducated, it's going to alienate the liberal media, who believes that they've been utilizing him as a shield for a while, but they don't understand that there's a hierarchy in the mindset of LeBron. He doesn't mind being feted by the liberal portion of the media, but he prefers Nike because at least Nike's paying him. The liberal media is not paying him. It's actually the opposite. As I've already stated, I believe that LeBron has certain very highly placed agents within the mainstream media that act as shields for him.
Absolutely. We all know he has. In terms of the balancing act that LeBron was living in his brand of being the king on the court and being someone authentic, understanding people's plights.
Allegedly understanding people's plights.
Being woke, being understandable of all the dynamics that go with coming from where he's from to where he is now. So, yeah, it takes a hit. And I'll tell you where it takes a hit. And it shouldn't be too profound, but everyone knows that incentives shape behavior. Simple as that. And what LeBron realized in this calculation is he went to a place where he saw the line. And he saw the line that was going to be an issue in terms of what his brand is. And he went exactly on brand.
He had to, because that's been his brand the whole time. So I give you credit for understanding that, Marcellus Wiley. The only issue that I have is that people, for whatever reason, believe that when he was talking all that woke, fake revolutionary bullshit, that he was saying something that was contrary to what the NBA or Nike wanted him to say. They wanted him to do that because it's good business for Nike whenever there's a conversation over who's better, LeBron James or Michael Jordan, because Nike's still getting Jordan money. Jordan's getting the majority of that money, but Nike's still getting their cut. So if people actually believe now that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan, that leads to more sales of them ugly-ass LeBron James sneakers. That means more money for LeBron. That means way more money for Nike. So they're making money off both those guys.
Any moment, Adam Silver went on brand. James Harden, Mr. Adidas, who has connections to China, went on brand. And LeBron said, let me be on brand. But his brand, as they say in the Bible, be hot or cold, not lukewarm, or I'll spit you out my mouth. Now LeBron is feeling some of that venom. Here's my biggest issue with LeBron James. He just bankrupted the woke's economy and investment in him in terms of being authentic.
Absolutely. And I'm not quite sure if he's ever going to be able to get that back, because there's nothing worse than a public indignity for a faction that lives for appearances, like the super liberals do. And I have to start mentioning this more. I used to mention this a lot more on this channel. The hierarchy on the liberal side, the black man is at the very bottom. But when it comes to the liberal blacks, they have to follow behind the liberal Caucasians. And the liberal Caucasians, they follow behind the liberal Caucasian Jew. That is the order. So right now, LeBron James is going to be the recipient of vitriol from the liberal Caucasian Jew media and the liberal Caucasians that are scattered throughout the media, especially the liberal Caucasian women, as we've seen with the emergence of this person, Christine Brennan, who basically has been raking him over the coals. I'll probably be covering that in another video.
That's what he did. And it's an issue because it's disingenuous. What you didn't...
No, it's not really disingenuous. It's actually genuine LeBron. LeBron has been consistently phony. It would have been disingenuous if he would have actually departed from what Nike wanted him to say. Nike needs him to put out that fire. One thing that LeBron has is a great business mind. When it comes to his understanding of society and what's going on around him, he's not too sharp. But when it comes to being the good soldier for his corporation, he knows how to do that very well.
In your statements is the plight of those people in China. And if you're a person who believes in equality and humanity, that has no border. So
that's if you actually believe in the concept of equality. Sometimes the so-called black man of the captivity, he can be more magnanimous than the power that he has. Do you really believe that your feelings on issues with other countries, other nations, other people actually matters when you don't even have the power to correct your own situation, so-called black man? This is a subtopic within this issue, but I believe that within LeBron James's heart, he really wants to say, I don't give a shit about what's going on in China because that's not my problem. But he can't say that because he's created this cult of personality where he's this basketball Buddha. Supposedly he loves everyone and he wants everyone to hold hands. Is he a liberal black? Absolutely, but there's a germ within LeBron's mind where he knows that there are certain things that he cares less about than other things. He's certainly more liberal Negro than pro-black. There's no doubt about that. But even the pro-black mindset is really based on a toxic rapport and the maintenance of that rapport with the Caucasian, because you can't be pro-black unless you believe that color is race, and it's not. So there are a lot of issues going on here, and LeBron is at the epicenter of these issues.
Did was go out there and show something that was inauthentic. It wasn't authentic to LeBron's brand.
Actually, yes, it was. You guys just never realized it because you're LeBron James fans. You believed all the time that he spoke about black issues, that he was doing so because he was passionate about those issues. And he may have had a certain amount of passion about some of the issues that he spoke about with Trayvon Martin, etc. But it was only because Nike gave him the green light. If Nike was to have called him and said, LeBron, this is not good for business, this is messing up our sales, he would have stated, I don't know enough about these issues for me to continue to speak. And I don't want to say anything irresponsible. I promise you that.
And now we're sitting here saying, LeBron, next time something comes up in any capacity in that scope, don't look at your side eye, because you had your opportunity to step up in those moments. And obviously you didn't.
Go ahead, JJ. Go ahead, big turn.
Uh-oh, don't y'all fast? No.
All the LeBron James fanboys, they confounded. They're like, you go first. No, you go first.
I want to hear all of it first. That's what I want to
Well,
do.
look, has he damaged his reputation? I think public perception, yes, it's probably not going to be the same as it was. But
Yes, he's done. He's done as being one of the leaders of the quote-unquote internet revolutionary woke movement for the athletes. He's just done. But expect him to try to put forth some type of damage control on his show, The Shop. He's definitely going to try to make that a topic and maybe try to expound on it as much as he can without paying issuance to the exact issue that Daryl Morey was speaking about. But LeBron knows the damage that has been done to his image, and I'm sure that he'll try to reclaim it to whatever degree he can. But the reason why this has happened is because the reason why he went woke in the first place was only because he wanted to be able to troll Michael Jordan. That's why we've seen all of his Cinco fans have always stated, oh, LeBron James does this for the black community. LeBron doesn't care about the backlash Michael Jordan did and blah, 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 even though Michael Jordan back 30 years ago was making the amount of money that that the 12th guy on the bench is making. Like, dude was making $2 million a year back in 1990. And yet people wanted him to put his neck on the chopping block to speak about racial issues that a lot of times he couldn't even understand, because Michael Jordan came from a two-parent home in the country. He couldn't speak about the dysfunction of the so-called black urban life. He didn't understand gangs and all that other shit. That was way past his scope of understanding. He went through certain racial issues in school, no doubt about it. There are many issues racially that he went through. But this notion that they wanted Michael Jordan to stand up and speak about societal problems, he understood that he was not qualified to do that. LeBron James now has been forced to acknowledge that there are issues that are beyond the pale for him to speak on. That's why he even stated, well, freedom of speech is good, but sometimes it can be damaging. Oh, wow, really? Okay. No problem, big guy.
I think if you look at the brand that LeBron is, the icon that he is, that's still going to remain intact.
You mean the idol that he is for people like you?
Unless it's going to be a blemish. But let's keep in mind, he never did, and I think that's his only mistake in not mentioning the flight of what's going on down there in China, the struggle.
That wasn't a mistake. That was purposeful. He was never going to speak on that issue. Ever. Nor will he ever.
Obstacles that's going on over there. The only thing he did was condemn Daryl Morey. He was asked about Daryl Morey, and so he spoke on that, and that's what I think people are harping on. And I'll give everybody that the fact that I don't think it was handled to the best of his ability. But the one problem, the issue he had, I think we all know, the issue he had was the timing of which Daryl Morey did that. He wasn't there in China, and so the timing of which the Nets and the Lakers were going over there, they had to deal with all that. They were locked in their hotel rooms.
Scared to death. That's the real issue. LeBron was scared.
No, they're 5-star hotel rooms, but
Ritz
they're
Carlton.
5-star. but they can't. They don't know what's going on. They don't know if they're playing a game. They don't know who's waiting for them outside the door.
They were shook.
What do you have to deal with that? And then they're left with the questions that they ask. So that's the only thing LeBron James has to address is how he feels about what Daryl Morey did. He still hasn't addressed the issue that's going on over there.
Well,
He's never going to address that. He's already stated that it's beyond the scope of his level of comprehension. What he's willing to talk about is what affects him, that being the money.
The original question, has he damaged his brand? Yes. Is it salvageable? Yes, because we've seen it throughout history.
It's salvageable from the perspective that if he were to win a championship this year, he'll be re-entered into the quote-unquote GOAT talks, things of that nature. But if we're speaking about him as someone who's going to be anyone who's taken seriously when speaking about societal issues, no, people are always going to look at him with a side eye. Now, if he were to step out and say he's an advocate for homosexuals and female empowerment, that would probably re-ingratiate him with the mainstream liberal media. But when it comes to the global issues, no, never again.
Let me go back to Muhammad Ali. When Ali was younger, when he went from Cassius to Ali, even people in the black community, because he ran his mouth, they weren't supporting Ali.
That's very true. And that's because you had a large contingent of so-called black people that were scared or who were geared on trying to build towards holding the white man's hand. Still had a very servile mindset.
They said he was too loudmouth, he's damaging what's going on in the civil rights movement because he's standing out, especially when he said, I'm not going to war. Now, he sacrificed, but at the time he was going through it, a lot of people didn't agree with what he was doing. As he got further along into his career, as he gained more knowledge, he broke away from Elijah Muhammad.
Let me say this very quickly, because Jim Jackson is stating certain things that are partially true. He's speaking a lot of half-truths. Muhammad Ali started to become much more of a sympathetic figure as it became more and more apparent that the U.S. was not going to win the war in Vietnam, and that they were there for reasons other than trying to, quote-unquote, free the Vietnamese. They were engaging in war against the Viet Cong, but they were really there for other purposes, that being to smuggle a lot of the opiates out of Vietnam. And people were becoming more and more aware of that, and they were sacrificing the lives of a lot of 20-year-old white boys. And Ali was ahead of the curve on that. So he became much more of a sympathetic figure for a certain contingent of young liberal Caucasians in the late 60s. Now, as Jim Jackson is alluding to, and I've stated myself in many videos about Ali, from the mid to late 70s onward, and nobody talks about this because when people talk about Ali, they love to talk about the period from 1964 to 1974, when a lot of his speech was much more strident and much more confrontational and much more quote-unquote revolutionary. But by the late 70s, Muhammad Ali became a globalist. Not only that, he became a globalist pawn. The U.S. government would send him to different places as an emissary, as an ambassador for the United States. And as a matter of fact, he sold the rights to his name for $50 million to certain corporate interests. That's what kept him afloat. And that's why he was forced to make appearances. Even in the latter portion of it, in his late 60s, early 70s, when he clearly could not move, he was still forced to make appearances because that was part of some of the contractual obligations of selling his name to these corporations. He had to make appearances. He had to still take photos with people, even though he should have been at home.
Studied Islam from the basic tenets of what it meant. That's when he became Muhammad Ali. But through that process...
No, not quite. He became Muhammad Ali in 1964, brother. I understand what you're trying to say, in that Muhammad Ali became a quote-unquote global icon, a global figure, a type of global Buddha type figure that LeBron James was himself trying to become until this fiasco. He started to become that in the late 70s. I get what you're saying with that, but Ali became Ali in 1964. There's no doubt about that.
He wasn't as worldly adorned as he was later on. So when you look at LeBron James, he's still trying to figure out how to navigate. LeBron James didn't set...
No, not really. LeBron's not really trying to figure out how to navigate anything. LeBron's trying to figure out how to become a billionaire. That's what he's trying to figure out. And he's willing to do anything it takes to become a billionaire.
I'm going to be the next Muhammad Ali.
Right.
But what he did was put himself in a position where people are going to look at him with a certain amount of power and influence. And how do you utilize that? I do think he stepped on his foot and his toe a little bit here by not acknowledging what's going on in Hong Kong. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go into deep political implications on what's going on. Because
it doesn't matter. LeBron understands that if he states even one thing that's even alluding to support for the protesters, that's going to destroy the relationship that he has with Nike and Nike with China. He understands that.
Really don't know. Yeah. But you can speak on the fact that freedom of speech is very important.
No, he cannot say anything. Anybody even trying to allude to the sentiment that LeBron James could say freedom of speech is important, you're a fool. And he's smart to know that. You're trying to still compare him to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali did not represent any corporate interests. He represented the interests of the Nation of Islam. Ali was a pawn of the Nation of Islam. There were certain things that Ali wanted to do during certain times of his life, like when he ran into Malcolm X after Malcolm X was removed from the Nation of Islam, and he knew that he could not greet Malcolm X. I believe that they saw one another in a certain part of Africa. I can't remember which country it was, where Ali stated that he saw Malcolm X, and Malcolm X tried to greet him, and he ignored him because he knew that Malcolm was under surveillance, and if a photo was taken of him greeting Malcolm X, he would therefore be put under scrutiny by the Nation of Islam, and he couldn't do that.
Where that's at in the world, in a communist country, America, whatever it is. You could have left it there and then moved on. But he didn't give himself that opportunity because, again, the thing is, he got asked about Daryl Morey and he spoke about it. And I do believe when he said that Morey wasn't educated, I don't think he meant on the fact of what's going on in Hong Kong, because this is the MIT grad. I think he meant it more so the implications of that text that he set out, what it does to the NBA. Because now, if China pulls out, from an economic perspective, billions of dollars, the salary cap goes down 10 to 15%. And people understand that in the NBA. So that's why they're trying to protect that, because as players, they look at it and say, salary cap goes down, I'm a free agent next year, I don't get paid as what I should get paid. So it's a lot more to it, but I do think LeBron's brand, depending on what he does moving forward, can be salvaged.
Well, I won't say salvage. He can hope that certain people forget certain things, but no. People are not going to forget this because this is a part of his brand.
everything is salvageable, and you're right. And there was layers to Muhammad Ali's progression, and you're 100% right. At that time, when he changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, black people weren't on board. We were very hardcore Christians at that time. That's a Muslim religion, a black nationalist religion, and so you're right. However, look, and this is where I'm giving LeBron an out. I just, because I do think this is a teachable moment for all athletes, and particularly for LeBron James in terms of, because we in the media, I'm telling you, we bait these black athletes.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. There was heavy baiting that was going on back around circa 2014, 2015 to try to encourage black athletes to be more expressive in their opinions about society at large, so on and so forth. And once again, when Ali died, it was almost like a cherry bomb that was thrown into a room that made all of a sudden every black athlete wanted to act like they were some type of revolutionary.
Ask white athletes to have an opinion on every injustice issue or social issue in the world. We ask black athletes, because of Muhammad Ali, because of John Carlos and Tommy Smith.
They also ask black athletes what their opinions are on societal issues because they know that our people are in captivity. We're in a disadvantageous position in this society. There's such a huge gap between how the average so-called black man gets treated as opposed to a celebrity black male. There's a far bigger gap in that than how the average Caucasian male will be treated as opposed to a Caucasian male celebrity.
Those guys, we ask the modern athlete to step out here on things that, one, I just don't think they're well versed in, and two, they just don't have a shared experience like those athletes did with the overwhelming majority of African Americans. It's just different. You're living in gated communities. You make millions of dollars. You're pampered globally. It's a different scenario. And so what I'm hoping comes out of this for LeBron James and all these athletes. Tony Dungy tweeted out something about Warrick Dunn today. And what Warrick Dunn, the former Tampa Bay running back, has been doing with his money for the last 20 years, building these homes for single moms in tough situations. Deshaun Watson grew up.
Yeah, but you know, brother, that's something that's nice, but that's like putting a Band-Aid on a severed leg. We're constantly trying to enable the paradigm of the single mother. That's a major issue. I don't know if Warrick Dunn comes from a single mother household, but what we should be trying to accentuate is the importance of the so-called black man, understanding his importance, especially where he is supposed to rank in the overall hierarchy. Thereby, you value yourself. You should thereby value the type of woman that you procreate with. A lot of brothers do not value themselves. They get into relationships with these females who might not be good people because that man is not a good person. They create a child. The woman is always able to seek assistance from the system, from the government, or from someone who feels pity for her, and she'll be housed. There's housing for black men who don't have their shit together. It's called prison. When the woman does not have her shit together, she gets all type of assistance in housing. It's nothing against Warrick Dunn. I'm not saying that what he's doing is bad, but what that helps to do is to perpetuate the single mother paradigm in the so-called black community.
One of these homes. And I just keep going back to there are different roles to play when you become a multi-millionaire. Look at other ethnic groups, racial groups, and what they require their super wealthy to do. Support the issues you believe in. You don't have to be the face of it. You don't have to be the voice of it. You can finance people to be the voice of what you believe in. You can take your wealth and really impact and help people. That, to me, is the new dynamic and the new expectations we should place on wealthy celebrities.
Let me back something up, too. You talked about, especially in the black community, we get asked to talk about different issues, especially issues that affect us.
Yeah.
Okay? I can't expect a white athlete to really intelligently talk about what it feels like to be bused to another school that's predominantly that color. Okay, I can't expect him to really dig into a lot of the racism issues dealing with police officers because they don't know. Now, they get asked questions when it comes to labor agreements or what's going on. Are you supporting Trump? They get asked questions, but they're not going to get the deep depth questions that we're going to get that affect us.
Inner city issue.
Inner city issue, because they can't really address it, and I get it. But to your point, we have to be careful about when we step out there. Assess all the information first. Digest it. Talk to people about it. So,
well, the real issue, Jim Jackson, is that LeBron James started to become drunk on the attention of playing the Muhammad Ali role. See, it was fun to play the Muhammad Ali role. But now when the negative attention starts to come, we see what's happening with him. Now he's starting to retreat into a shell. Once again, I have no problem with that because I don't think that he's qualified to speak on any topic other than basketball. It's no disrespect to the brother. Once again, I've just seen a lot of his social media. He's not a witty or an insightful dude at all, and I'm not trying to attack him. I'm just being honest about that. LeBron had no business trying to act as if he was a global figure, and there are a lot of pro-blacks on the internet. Well, how come we're putting this pressure on LeBron? We're not putting this pressure on other people. LeBron James is the one who cited the Martin Luther King quote. LeBron James is the person who cited the Martin Luther King quote. LeBron James is the person who cited the Martin Luther King quote. He said, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So as soon as you start to quote those type of statements, that means that people are going to expect you to have a strong stance on anything that goes on across the world that would be considered injustice, especially if you're from a quote-unquote democratic environment.
come back and have a formative opinion, it's well-versed and already studied.
And that was my biggest issue with LeBron. He could have told that company line. James Harden did it. Steve Kerr did it. Doc Rivers did it. Adam Silver did it. Everybody did it. And LeBron wanted to go on brand because that brand is disingenuous, being woke, to Whitlock's point. Let's talk about that. One, Daryl Morey is not misinformed. You're misinformed.
Absolutely. Good job, Marcellus Wiley.
For saying Daryl Morey's misinformed. What's the most popular NBA team in China?
Oh,
Houston Rockets.
Rockets.
In the relationship with Yao Ming, and Daryl Morey knows that relationship intimately. He knew the timing. He knew everything, all the implications, and still hit send.
You think so?
Yeah. I know so. I know so. We gonna argue that MIT didn't know? Now, you go over there. I'm just gonna tell you,
That was the exact time for him to do what he did. Because you have two of the more high-profile teams in the NBA going over to China. I'm not going to say that Daryl Morey was purposefully trying to stir conversation with LeBron James and James Harden and Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving at the epicenter of all that. But I do think that he considered it. And he didn't care what the repercussions were going to be when he sent that tweet. And I don't believe that he thought that it was not going to be seen. I just think that he never realized that none of those guys were going to have his back. I believe that he thought that those players were going to have his back because they're so woke on everything else.
his team is the most popular. He has the most understanding. He's the most familiar. That said, what we're really talking about at the core to me is that pressure. A lot of people want to call it the black tax. What I want to call it is survivor's remorse. Shout out to you, LeBron, and the TV show you had called Survivor's Remorse. When you make it, there are gifts and there's guilt that comes with you making it. And the gifts are something that we want to share externally. All right, here's your car, here's your house, mama, all this stuff. And then the guilt is when we want to change the mindset and show everybody, instead of how to come up like we did, how I'm still down with you, how I'm still relevant, how I'm still real with you. And then what woke does is activate and triggers people to detour from what's most important. And it's not color, it's character. So LeBron James was never kept behind in his road because of color. It was just simply, are you good enough? And then can you live up to those abilities?
Absolutely. I agree, sir. You're on point with this.
And what happens is when we reach back, we want to say, no, the road that we just traveled is not the same road. It is. And we don't want to enhance those real elements of the grind and the success. And
Well, I think that LeBron James understands what you're stating more than he might let on because, as I've already stated, he tries to act as if he's Muhammad Ali, but he's not a man of the people. You're not going to see LeBron James walking through a crowd of so-called black people in any hood anywhere. He understands that that he can't do that shit. He can try to act as woke as he wants to act. Muhammad Ali used to go to every hood. It didn't matter where he was at. He go to every hood. As a matter of fact, even when he went to Europe, when he's playing with land, the first thing that he would ask the person that greeted him is, "Where your niggas at? Where are your black people at? Where do they live at?" And I'm quoting. He would say, "Where are your niggas at?" And then he would go to the so-called black community wherever he landed at, whether it was Berlin, Paris, London, etc. LeBron's not doing that shit. LeBron stays in his hotel. He probably has a couple little hoes come up to his hotel room, does his thing and goes back to playing video games or some shit and films a Taco Tuesday video. Like that's LeBron James' life. He don't really know what the hell is going on outside of what Nike tells him.
Tell you why I know LeBron felt guilty and fell victim to this. When he came back, he says this: so many people could have been harmed, not only financially. The hell you talking about first? Financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah, he said physically because he was scared to death. When he was over in China, LeBron was scared to death.
The cliff notes of that is my pockets could have got hurt the most.
Yep.
Then my body, then my mind, then my heart. That's out of order, brother. And he knows better than...
Well, no, actually, it is in order. It is in order when you understand who he really is. The problem for you, Marcellus Wilde, is that you're a LeBron James fan, so this is a bit of a shock to you. It's not a shock to me at all. And it really is on brand for him. LeBron did not go off brand by not sticking up for China. He stayed on brand because everything he says is according to what Nike needs him to say.
But that's what we do. We have this guilt. When we make it, we got to shower you on the outside with this and then say, I'm still down there with you on the inside.
What LeBron meant by Daryl Morey not being informed is that he wasn't informed on the implications that the Nets and the Lakers would face as they're arriving to China.
I'm not quite sure about that, brother. I actually think that he was uninformed on what the response and the reaction of the players would be. Because according to what we've seen over the last couple of years, the NBA players seem to be so eager to speak out on social issues. So I actually thought that his miscalculation was that he believed that the NBA players were going to side with him, and they didn't.
With all the issues, I think if we asked Daryl Morey right now, if he knew all of this would come to pass, he would say no.
That doesn't mean you're not informed. It means now the consequences and the risks have now outweighed the reward.
Agreed.
That's a bad choice of words on LeBron's part. He's not saying he wasn't informed.
But Chris, here's the only thing I would say. I think my memory serves me. Other people in the NBA over the past couple of years have retweeted some things in support of the Hong Kong protesters without this overwhelming reaction. Yeah. Now, I think Daryl Morey being associated with the Rockets heightens it, and Yao Ming and puts more attention on it.
Once again, with Yao Ming having a relationship with Daryl Morey, Yao Ming understood that he has to distance himself from Daryl Morey because the Chinese government, without a doubt, looked at Yao Ming and they asked him, did you know about this? And if Yao Ming, if there was even a suspicion that Yao Ming knew anything about Daryl Morey having these type of sentiments, these feelings towards the protesters, and how basically he wants the current regime of China to be overthrown, Yao Ming could get incarcerated.
But I think Daryl Morey had a right to believe his tweet was innocent and that it wouldn't cause this sort of reaction.
No, I don't think that he has that right.
And because it's really not a controversial tweet.
Right.
How can we say there's not a controversial tweet, Jason Whitlock? Basically what Daryl Morey, that's like somebody talking to your wife and saying, I hope that you get a divorce. That's a controversial thing to say to a woman. If you're her husband, you saying you want me out of the picture. For you to say that you're in agreement with the protesters, what you're saying is that you want the installation of democracy. If you want the installation of democracy, you want the entire ruling class of China to be overthrown.
It really says more about how repressive the Chinese government is than anything about Daryl Morey, and that's why again, if a
Well, we have to understand something, because we talk about freedom of speech here in America, and I think that there are some inconsistencies here. There are some attempts at equivalencies that get made. I don't think that people understand certain things. When Daryl Morey says fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong, he's saying that he wants democracy to get installed in China. I think that certain people think that the American equivalent would say we want Donald Trump out of office. That would not be the equivalent. The equivalent here in America is we want U.S. democracy to be destroyed. We no longer want the three-pronged check and balance system of the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch to be in existence anymore. What we want is a whole different form of government. That would be the equivalent. And if someone were to say that, you probably accuse them of being a traitor to their nation.
a tweet like this could put LeBron and the Nets and the Lakers in jeopardy, that's even more reason, in my view, to be like, man, this government is over here tripping.
No, I don't think that they're tripping at all. I think they understand the power of the NBA to influence the minds of the people.
Understood. And you know the craziest thing? Woj, who just liked the same tweet, lost the #1 broadcast NBA show in the world for liking the tweet. We're not even going to talk about Kuzma, who lands off the plane. Where's my $1 million deal? Gone. All the appearances everyone had, gone. But what I'm saying that's greater than this one issue, because I think Daryl Morey didn't understand that it would cause that avalanche, but he certainly knows that this was not going to be met with full acceptance, is don't lie to people about what is the most important things and elements. And when your brand is on that lie, that's what happens. You become hypocritical or you become silent.
All right, stick around later in the show. We'll get...
Anyway, that's basically it on that, brothers. We'll see how things go in the future of this story, because I don't think that it's going to go away right away. We still have not heard from Mr. Daryl Morey. Eventually, we are going to hear from him. I think that he's basically a dead man walking. It's just a matter of what he wants his last meal to be. But that person that you see in the middle right there, LeBron James, he views himself as a shot caller, especially with the way in which Adam Silver has allowed him to rise in prominence and clout. So Daryl Morey is going to be removed. I think that there's very little doubt about that, because LeBron James wants him gone. The Chinese want him gone. I believe that Tillman Fertitta was viewing Daryl Morey with some suspicion, and this probably just tipped it over the edge. And Adam Silver is going to do what he needs to do. So peace.